A shadow of power crawls across the land. Men the clash and claim the crown with heavy hands. In the echo of their battles and their schemes, we hold fast to hope beyond their broken dreams. Oh, remember those who stand before the storm. Our warrior queens in overhand and torn. They lift our soul when darkness happens near. With lion hearts they banish every fear. Through ages lost and tyrants carved in stone, their voices rose where grief and tears had flown. No crown they seek, no throne to stand upon. Their only quest to guard us till the dawn.
These silly ideas that your manly bravado scoffs at, these ideas that your patriarchy dismisses as superstition, as old wives' tales, they are the unseen threads of survival. This land, this very ground beneath our feet, it's soaked, darlin, soaked in sweat and whispered prayers. It holds secrets, older than the moss that chokes our live oaks, older than the oldest grief. And the women here, those fierce mothers and grandmothers from Virginia, the Carolinas, and Georgia, they carry it all. They carry in their hearts the ancient knowing of the earth's whispers and the shadowed dangers that lurk just beyond what your eyes can see. Their stories, all that talk of superstition and spirit, it ain't just some pretty frippery for Sunday tea. No, it's hard-earned wisdom passed hand to hand, breath to breath, like a secret recipe for survival. It guided them through the wild, honey, and across that thin veil into the unseen. That moss, it ain't just moss, dear. It's the shroud of ages draped over everything, thick and heavy. And these trees, they ain't just trees. They're the silent witnesses to all that's come before. Every scream, every tear, every quiet triumph. The women who walked here first, from the Cherokee, the Catawba, the Tuscarora, and the Muskogee nations, and then the ones who came in ships with strange tongues, they all had a kind of knowing. It wasn't the kind you learn from books, no, not like those dusty tomes we keep locked away. This was a wisdom born of the dirt itself, and the spirits that drift through it like smoke. They knew, oh, they knew, that the world you see with your eyes is just a thin, worn-out curtain, and on the other side, things stir, things you don't want to know about, but you gotta. The Cherokee women, proud daughters of this hallowed ground, they walked in the power of the matriarch. Their society, it was like the land itself, rooted, nurturing, and fierce as a she-bear. Clan identity flowed through the mothers, their hands holding the keys to land and legacy, their voices echoing in council and even in war. These women, they called 'em beloved women. Warriors, dear, with spirits sharpened by survival, wielding power as much in wisdom as in any battle. It's told they held the right to declare war and kept their people safe, their fortitude outshining many a soldier. The old folks, they'd whisper about 'em as protectors, healers, keepers of stories, fierce guardians who knew how to navigate that tangled web of spirits drifting through the woods and creeks. They'd say their strength wasn't just muscle. No, it was vomited from the deep, dark wells of love, courage, and an unyielding resilience that could crack stone. They were the first great generals of this place. They held the council fires, named the warriors. They were fierce, and their power was a shield. They knew how to speak to the wind and the spirits. And they taught their daughters how to walk between the seen and the unseen. A cardinal's red feather wasn't just a pretty thing to them. It was a promise, and a screech owl's hoot, not just a sound in the dark. It was a grave warning, honey, a grave warning. Then came the women from across the great water, shackled and broken, but with a fire in their bellies that no chain could quench. The indigenous women, they looked at these new sisters, these African women, and they saw a different kind of magic. They saw women who carried the weight of the old world on their backs, but still knew how to laugh, how to sing, how to conjure a remedy for poison oak with a whispered poem. They brought their own spirits with them, the haints and the hags that steal your breath while you sleep. They knew to paint their porch ceilings with haint blue, a color like a summer sky, to keep the evil out. It was a language they spoke with the earth, a conversation of survival, a desperate, beautiful conversation. Those African women, they carried a vibrant tradition of ghost stories, protective rituals, and magical knowledge. Practical, mind you, and spiritual. The boo hag, a skinless witch stealing your energy while you sleep. They warded her off with haint blue, a practice handed down from West Africa. It was their way of blending their old world with this new, hostile one, protecting their homes, their families, and the indigenous women. They marveled at these African women warriors arriving in chains. They saw power, beauty, resilience, a stark contrast to their condition. They saw their dignity, their defiance, a strange, uneasy recognition, a transformation of this southern landscape. The Gullah people, descendants of those enslaved Africans, they kept their distinct culture, their robust folklore. Haints, restless spirits, hags, like the boo hag, malevolent adversaries. Their spiritual landscape wove protective magic with cautionary tales affirming community and survival. That haint blue paint from indigo repelling spirits, and it showed how ancient knowledge was kept, adapted, a protective fabric woven around daily life. African women brought a profound knowledge of herbal medicine, spiritual healing, and magical practices. Parallel, yes, but distinct from indigenous ways. Holistic healing, divination, manipulating spiritual forces, vital tools for survival in an alien land fraught with dangers. Their understanding of nature and the supernatural guided them through new perils, natural and social, under enslavement. It offered spiritual resilience, practical means to heal, protect, provide. Often it was the very foundation for resistance. This knowledge, darlin, it went beyond just healing a cough. It was crucial in aiding escape, resistance to bondage, spiritual and herbal practices, a guide and shield for those on the Underground Railroad. Their wisdom preserved life and hope during the most violent conflicts like the Civil War, when rivers ran red and men in blue and gray fought bitter battles. Their skills kept families from starving, from perishing amidst the turmoil. The fortitude and leadership of these African women, they made them formidable figures in struggles for justice and survival. Unnamed, often omitted from history books, but their role as spiritual generals, as guardians against oppression is undeniable. They wielded their knowledge and strength like shields and spears, commanding respect in battlefields and seats of power alike. Their leadership wasn't just tactical, it was deeply rooted in cultural and spiritual authority, inspiring communities to resist, to endure. The battle for equality, it saw voices from men and women of African descent rising in unison. Men, yes, drawing on ancestral roots, sometimes bearing the imperfections of humanity, but alongside them stood African women, unwavering, unflinching. They picked up the shield and spear with steadfast resolve, their strength and resolve often surpassing that of their male counterparts. Their contributions to social justice, empowerment, and community resilience have been foundational, making African women indispensable allies and leaders in movements for equality and freedom. And the indigenous women, they saw something else too. They noticed how African women, rooted in different traditions, carried a profound hatred towards them, yet still provided indispensable service and protection. especially from the natural dangers of this southern environment. African women, with their intimate knowledge of the land's healing herbs, weather patterns, and supernatural forces, acted as guardians of life and survival against threats European women were ill prepared to face. An uneasy coexistence, yes, visible in the shrewd wisdom and fortitude with which African women navigated this new world's dangers, all while bearing a palpable bitterness towards European mistreatment. Then there were the women who came from the cold, wet lands of Ireland and Scotland and France. They brought their own spooks, their own grim tales. They knew about the little people and the ghosts that haunt old castles. They came here to this wild, new world, but they weren't afraid. They'd already faced down the devil, dear, in the form of their own menfolk, who could be as cruel and unpredictable as any summer storm. They had a way of looking at a man, a cold, hard stare, like an eagle's eye that could stop a drunk or a masked fiend dead in his tracks. They knew that sometimes the greatest danger wasn't from a spirit in the woods, but from the shadow that walks on two legs beside you. These European women brought a tapestry of beliefs from Celtic, Anglo-Saxon, and British Isles folklore, an acute awareness of spirits, witches, fairies, omens, practices like charms, incantations, protective rituals passed down. They used them to guard against unseen dangers, employing sharp senses, heightened vigilance. One might hear how they describe themselves as constantly alert, like predators in the wild, perking up at the faintest sound or the coldest chill. They reacted swiftly, issuing sharp commands with full authority to men, rallying women and children no matter their heritage, extinguishing lights, shuttering windows, barring doors, defensive measures ingrained in their cultural memory. The incantations they recited in their natural tongues spoke of traversing the valley of death and fearing no evil, a stoic embrace of danger, underscoring their courage and spiritual resilience. European women observed their own complicated social positions within rigid patriarchal and religious hierarchies. Despite airs of social elitism, many were keenly aware of their subservience to men, to God, living under strict expectations that limited autonomy, enforced obedience. The supernatural dangers of France, Ireland, the British Isles, witchcraft, ghosts, curses, had long prepared them for the eerie unknowns of southern Gothic shadows. They brought stories and rituals from a world where the boundary between natural and supernatural was thin. This background gave them a framework to interpret and respond to the strange, threatening aspects of the southern landscape. Their experience with mystical forces enabled them to read symptoms of peril in sounds, sights, feelings, equipping them to guard their households with centuries-honed rituals and spells. These women showed no fear of the supernatural. They moved through darkness and threats with sharpened senses and quick actions. Their greatest dangers, however, were not ghosts or witches, but the men in their lives, their own kindred, whose violence and unpredictability posed the most significant threats. Even the children they bore, like man-children who grew hairy and began to stink of musk, became ominous figures embodying the lurking menace within their social world. Though they may have feared these men, European women did not cower before them. In fact, they resisted with fierce resolve. When faced with men who were threats, whether blue-clad soldiers, so-called knights hiding behind white sheets, or predatory drunks, these women met them with unflinching defiance. Their eyes, described as eagle-like, piercing, and unyielding, stared down aggressors with quiet authority, the raw strength of a predator defending her territory. This intense gaze was a symbol of their resilience, their refusal to be dominated, maintaining control through daring and unspoken power. You see, honey, it doesn't matter if we came from the land or the sea. It doesn't matter if our skin is the color of the earth or the pale of a ghost. We all know the same truths. We know that superstitions aren't just old tales, they're armor forged in the fires of survival. We know that spirits are real, and so is the courage it takes to face them down. We've all been keepers of secrets, healers of wounds, and fierce defenders of our own. The world out there, it's a broken thing. Men in blue and men in gray, men in sheets and men with laws, they all tried to fix it with violence and words on paper, but they only tore it up worse. They made the world a dangerous place for a little girl, for a woman. It takes a different kind of strength, a strength forged in the shadows and whispered from one heart to another, to put it back together. As we face the return of the darkness of men squabbling about being king, let us remember those that have always protected us, our warrior queens.
Warrior queens, we chant your name tonight. Warrior queens, your courage is our light. Guide us through the night until the morning bright. Oh, remember those who stand before the storm, our warrior queens in glory and in form. Forever bold they shine when hope is gone. Our warrior queens, our pillars and our song.